Hi, good morning. I woke up really early because I slept all day yesterday because I didn't sleep the night before. I was just scrolling on TikTok. We're gonna react to a video I watched and we're gonna give our thoughts about it. We're also gonna talk about some recent hormone tests I got and my feelings around transgenderism. Yep. Okay.
Dive right in.
Okay, so I'm going to jump into this. Do you remember Frozen 2? Hopefully everyone's seen Frozen 2.
I've seen Frozen 2.
And there's this part where the Sami people start singing. And if you notice something, all the Sami people are very brown. Now when you think about that for a second, just like slow down. Frozen 2 is built off of Scandinavia, and the indigenous people represented there are actually, like, they're real people. They're Sami people. Know that, like, I looked them up, and on an article it said, like, Sami.
1 sec, let me search.
These are very white people in terms of visual appearance.
On an article it said, like, Sami, the white Indians, I think. They're an indigenous people of white skin. Disney made them brown so that we would associate them with indigeneity, because that's how Americans are used to thinking about indigenous people, because whiteness isn't real.
Yeah, it does seem like a made-up idea. I hear many people talk about how, like, sometimes the Irish are white, sometimes the Irish aren't white, sometimes Italians are white, sometimes Italians aren't white, sometimes Hispanic people are white, sometimes Hispanic people aren't white. It really depends on, like, what we're trying to do with the definition of whiteness here. So let's keep it playing.
Idea. And it's not even a skin color. When you think about it. Because whiteness offers you privileges, right? So when queer...
Just to clarify, just in case anybody wants to argue, whiteness does offer you a lot of privileges, like fitting into the monolith, not monolith, that's the wrong word, the, like, group of whiteness. You're, like, in-grouped into whiteness. So don't even try and pretend like it doesn't come with the privileges.
People started becoming visible in society, the first thing that happened was the AIDS epidemic. Why would white people genocide white people? They don't. They just looked at those queer people and said, you don't count as white, we're going to genocide you. A lot of people who are white and queer don't fully comprehend that queerness is mutually exclusive to whiteness.
To get my own thoughts on this, this was a really interesting take when I first heard the video. Not because it was the first time I'd heard it, or because I disagree with it, but I don't think I comprehended the fact that they're mutually exclusive, especially before my transition. This actually reminds me of something that I was talking about with somebody else recently, about how I was talking, and this might sound a little bit conceited for a second, but I'm gonna do it anyway for the sake of the learning experience, hopefully. I was talking to somebody about how I see a lot of people getting shit on the internet, like trans people, queer people, but generally they're non-passing people, or people that are deemed, like, unattractive or, like, societally not appealing, and they'll be criticized and, like, shoved back into their AGAB, their assigned gender at birth. A lot of trans feminine people that are non-passing are just called, like, men in dresses and all other kinds of, like, mean things to separate them from who they are. And I was saying to this person that, like, I would be a lot more surprised if people were making content like that about people that were deemed as passing, or, like, fitting enough of the standards to, like, fit in. And in particular, I was talking about how, like, people don't make content like that about me, they will choose to like accept me, but then the rest of the trans community. And I was talking about how like I really hate that. Actually, it makes me feel really bad. And like it's stupid, and they shouldn't like. It's almost worse. If you're gonna hate trans people, hate all trans people, not just the ones that you don't want to fuck. You know, I don't know. Preferably don't hate trans people. Anyways, so I guess like in this context, it could be said that like if you are queer in a way that conforms to whiteness, because again, it's more like the culture around it rather than like the actual skin color. If you are queer in a way that conforms to whiteness, then you're probably okay. But the thing about queerness is that queerness and whiteness often, they really are mutually exclusive. Like if I were to embrace more, I don't want to say queer acceptance for myself, but like if I were to look more visually queer, I would get further excluded from whiteness than I already am. And already, because of my like transgender identity, I am kind of excluded from this whiteness a little bit, but I'm still white. So like worst case scenario, the queerness is able to be like, I don't want to say removed, but like set aside for the sake of whiteness. Theoretically, like that's something that could happen, not that it does. And I try to do what I can to fight back against like oppression, which is what a lot of whiteness is. So I clash heads with a lot of white people. But anyways, we're gonna keep playing.
And whether or not whiteness chooses to genocide them is determined on whether or not whiteness thinks that they count, that they're good enough. So I always want to be really careful of talking.
That's kind of what we were just saying, is like if you are deemed as attractive or like acceptable enough, like if you conform enough within the existing structures that exist, like for whiteness specifically, I don't want to say it's like it has to be a binary system, but whiteness seems very like Christian binary. Yeah. Anyways, I agree.
About white queers as if their whiteness is an immutable fact, because it's made up and it's only valid in as much as both society and they themselves buy into it as a concept. So like I hear this a lot of people talk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's true too. I theoretically, I could probably pick whiteness as well as queerness because of what I mentioned earlier. But because I hate the way that queerness and whiteness interact, I want to say I refuse whiteness. It feels weird to say that because I am white. So like, how do I refuse my own skin color? But one thing I talk about with my therapist a lot is I want to refuse white culture, or like the oppressive culture, colonialism, and like colonialism of the mind and things like that. And unlearning my whiteness has been crucial for me in understanding my queerness and like who I am as a person, not correlated with what I look like on the exterior.
Talking about how white people just pick any other type of marginalization to try to get away from their whiteness. And like, yes, that's true. And a lot of times they hold on to believing that they are actually white and that they have the privileges that come with that. But, and I guess this will have to be a part 2.
I don't have the part 2. So we're not going to watch the part 2, but I do agree with what they said. And like I mentioned, in the beginning of my transition, I tried to lean more into whiteness, and now it's not something that I have any desire for. And it's caused a lot of issues in my life, I'm not going to lie. But at the end of the day, I think that for my own mental health and my own, like, self-acceptance, queerness is the one that I have to lean into. Because I'll always be excluded mentally or socially from whiteness. My light died, but I have a cooler one. So we should use this from the get-go. This is another video that I was vibing with this morning. So let's
watch this one too.
Every time I try to accomplish goals, I realize why I don't like goals. It's just the fluidity of the interchanging conception of what life truly is doesn't really give me a foundational standpoint to want to even stand on goals. It makes me want to spectate on everybody else's goals and see that there's absolutely no contingent point to continue to pursue.
Yeah, pretty based. Setting individual goals and sticking with those goals feels so pointless because they change all the time. If you get to the goal that you're trying to reach, you will no longer be at the goal once you get there, because now you're gonna have a different goal. Like, it's fluid. It's never a solid foundation. You're always gonna want new things. And looking at other people, it's self-reflective. Like, you look at other people making their goals and you're like, wow, there really is no point to any of
this.
Continue to pursue nothing. I hate sounding like a pessimistic nihilist because I know everything matters intrinsically. However, the basis and the dynamic of what matters to us socially is completely and utterly disrespectful to the ideology of what a human
being is.
I'm taking this to mean that, like, everything matters intrinsically. And if we really want to get on it, you can watch my, like, Who Am I video or my duality. Oh, yeah, I have a lot of videos about this. But it's basically saying that, like, everything matters in terms of experience intrinsically because it builds who you are. It builds who you are. So it does matter. What you experience matters. However, what the society favors, which in this specific instance is kind of a society of, like, whiteness and white culture and capitalism and, like, money, what the society favors is not in line with, like, how you can live a good life as a human. Like, if I am succeeding to the maximum potential that I can societally, I probably don't even transition. I just go, I be a worker bee in some, like, factory somewhere for a big boss. I shit on company time because the boss makes $1 and I make a dime. And that's not the vibes. Like, this, if the society we live in doesn't care about the individual, then the individual will struggle to make goals within it because it's not going to line up. It just isn't right.
And
It does this.
They don't really care about, like, a goal, but every time I try to fantasize my goals, I come off feeling selfish because there's so much work to be done that isn't for me.
Yeah, I agree with this as well. Like, if my goal is to transition, I feel selfish. It feels wrong to do things that will make me feel better in my life because of the way I was raised, because of the societal standards. I don't know. But even now that I am into my transition, when I think of goals that I want, like, if I personally want to be financially successful, I have it in my head that, like, me being financially successful means I'm participating in a system in which some people don't have anything. And it feels wrong for me to want to try and achieve success if other people are being stifled by the same system that I would need to utilize in order to get success. I don't know if that's what this guy is saying, but that's how I feel after watching this video. So, yeah.